I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Coralville City Council to order, please. June 12th, 2018. Roll call.
Foster.
Present.
Gross.
Here.
Gill.
Present.
Dodds.
Present.
Goodrich.
Here.
Okay, all council members are present, as is the mayor, the city clerk, city administrator, city attorneys, and several staff members in the audience. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Gill, seconded by Gross. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is approved. Okay, we have several very nice and very important items on the agenda before we get down to our typical business. First off, a very literally life-saving event occurred in Coralville.
May 27th.
Yep, May 27th. My notes are in my mailbox. Let me go get those. I put them in my mailbox. Give me 1 second. Will you get them, Alan? Thanks. I don't want to mess up and leave off anybody's names and so forth, so I'm sorry. I thought it was at my table here. But okay. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Sorry for the delay. Anyhow, so on May 27th, some folks were dining at the ReUnion Brewery here in Coralville on Highway 6, and unfortunately, one of the persons started choking on some of the food that she had eaten, and it was a very traumatic event. And the EMTs were called, and the police department arrived on the scene, and prior to the officers arriving, family members attempted to give the Heimlich maneuver to the person who was choking, and they were unsuccessful. But fortunately, a bystander or a person that was in the restaurant that's been trained also in the Heimlich maneuver, Timothy Estrada, who's also here tonight, stepped in and did it. And Tim is a prison guard at the Iowa Medical and Classification Center here in Coralville, works here, and thanks to his efforts, the patient's airway was cleared, and she was able to breathe again. And clearly, it was a life-saving event. And so the patient's family was very grateful. The police department arrived on the scene and was also grateful that it had been dealt with. We felt like Mr. Estrada needed to be recognized by the council. He was actually nominated by the police department to receive this award for going above and beyond to help a stranger who was in need of assistance. And without his assistance, the police department report says this could have easily been an entirely different situation. And so I would like to present first a certificate of appreciation to Timothy Estrada and for what he did. And then we have the person who was choking and her family in the audience, as well as Tim's family. So anyone is welcome to say a few words if they'd like. But so here's the certificate of appreciation to Timothy Estrada. This certificate is given in appreciation for demonstrating awareness and courage through the responsible and timely action on May 27, 2018. Through this action, a life was saved. And signed by the mayor. So please come forward. Out of privacy, I didn't introduce, ma'am, you. If you're welcome to, if you'd like to say a few words, you're welcome to say that.
I'm eternally grateful.
I'm sure, yeah, absolutely. Would you like to pose for any more pictures or anything? Or okay, Kyle's with me.
Tim with you.
Okay, real quick.
That's your job.
I'm met with Karen, and although my wife has asked me to be quiet, I can't
Just
help it.
use the mic right next to you there.
I just want to go on record as saying that Mr. Estrada saved my wife's life. And this And this award is very richly deserved. I also want to thank the police officers who came. They were there within a matter of a few minutes after Mr. Estrada did the Heimlich maneuver and administered oxygen, which was very helpful to Chris. A few minutes after that, the first responders came. I don't think that we often have the opportunity to thank our neighbors, our police, and our first responders like you are doing this evening, and I want to thank the City Council.
Thank you.
Let's just hold it together here.
Absolutely. No, I got one already. I got one. Go right ahead. No. Oh, and you, well,
Okay. Thanks so much.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay for the whole meeting, or you're.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Very good. Okay, I now, the next item is a CRANDIC presentation, and Josh Schomburger with the Convention and Visitors Bureau is here to address us.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I just appreciate a couple minutes of your time to really thank you and thank the City of Coralville. As you all know, on April 29th, we coordinated and hosted the first ever marathon between Cedar Rapids and Iowa City, and it was something that had been in the works for more than 10 years, almost 15 years, this idea, and it started with some folks who had a running shop here in Clock Tower Plaza and some other people in the community like Brian Watts, who had been working on it for more than a decade, and we were finally able to pull it off with the help of you, with the help of Iowa City and the county. You know, there's really only one road you can run between Cedar Rapids and Iowa City, and that's Highway 965, and so that was a big part of it. But you know, it was a big successful event as well. We were fortunate that we originally budgeted about 1,300 participants, and we had almost 3,400 registrations that represented runners from over 30 states and 3 countries that came here and ran through Coralville and ran through North Liberty and Swisher and Cedar Rapids and Iowa City. And so the result of that was, from the beginning, we wanted to create an event that also was for a good cause. And so our plan was to give the proceeds to the school districts of Iowa City Community School District and Cedar Rapids. And we had hoped to give about $10,000 and $10,000, I should say, and we were able to give over $55,000 for a year one event, which is pretty significant. So really proud of that. You know, I got a lot of credit for helping put that on, but I really, as you all know, more than probably any other city, because I'm in front, I work with you quite a bit, I don't deserve a lot of that credit. It's folks that are my team. And so I brought Monica Nieves here, who's our Director of Special Events and Communications. You all know her very well because she puts on Fry Fest and many other things. And so I'd like her to just acknowledge the individuals in Coralville that really stepped up and made this possible, because they deserve to be recognized, and you as a council and a mayor need to know, you know, all the great work they're doing besides their day jobs. So turn it over to Monica.
Thank you. Thank you all for having us. On behalf of the Run CRANDIC committees, I am very honored to be here to thank the Coralville city leaders that helped us put this on. We couldn't have done it without the support of the city council, all of you, but especially the public safety teams, Lieutenant Deb Sumners and Police Chief Shane Cron were indispensable in making this happen, as well as the rest of their police department. Former Chief Dave Stannard and very soon to be Chief Ori Schweitzer, who's here today, of course, also played a really huge role in making this happen, as well as the rest of the fire department, who played the role as our first responders just in case anything was to happen that day. Erica Eichhorn and Jordan Beal were on our planning committee for the programming crew, and also, I would like to thank Sherry Proud and the rest of the Parks and Recreation Department at Coralville to help us make this such a hugely successful event. So on behalf of the entire committee, I have a plaque to present to you, Mayor. So thank you again,
Oh, thank you, Monica.
and we'll see you next year.
We will display this proudly. Thank you very much.
Yes, we're only getting them out of Johnson County next year, so it's a little less work for everyone next year, but thank you so much.
Very nice. We'll have a special place for that. Go ahead, Tom.
Josh, how much money did you raise?
The grand total was $55,780, somewhere in that area, which we split between, each school district got just short of $28,000.
That's
amazing.
That's amazing. That's great.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
it was a great event, so.
Thank you.
Went to help Mitch and West High maybe a little bit.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay, next on the agenda, item 6, I have 2 proclamations to make this evening. I'll take them in the order that they're listed on the agenda. The first one is for Pride Month. Let me read this proclamation. City of Coralville Proclamation. Whereas the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender LGBT+ communities across the nation annually celebrate Pride in their culture and community in the month of June. And whereas the annual celebration of Pride began as a collective protest for the rights of LGBT+ individuals and communities. And whereas the national tradition of celebrating Pride in June is a tribute to the Stonewall riots of June 1969, which are remembered in the launch of the modern LGBT+ rights movement. And whereas transgender people of color, including Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, and Stormy De Lavere, were the primary instigators of the national fight for LGBT+ rights, and often gave their work and their lives to the cause. And whereas the city of Coralville recognizes the many LGBT+ lives that continue to be lost each year in pursuit of living out their authentic identities. And whereas the city of Coralville welcomes and accepts people of diverse sexual orientations, gender identities, and gender expressions, and is proud to celebrate the contributions and culture of these citizens. And whereas each year Iowa City Pride brings together thousands of LGBT+ people throughout Coralville and Iowa City from across Iowa and beyond to celebrate their shared identities and experiences. And whereas Iowa City Pride will be celebrating the city's 48th annual Pride Festival on June 16th and Pride Week from June 11th through June 17th. Now therefore I, John A. Lundell, Mayor of the City of Coralville, Iowa, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2018 to be Pride Month. Signed this 12th day of June 2018. Sign it. We have Cassie Ellis to receive it, and do you have colleagues with you as well?
And Sean Finn.
All 3. You're welcome to come up and receive this. And if any of you would like to make a few comments at the podium, you're welcome to do that as well.
I'm real short. I'm real loud, though, too. I just really wanted to say thank you for the proclamation of June as Pride Month. Anyone well-versed in LGBT history knows that it's not been an easy history, and recognition by local governments is an invaluable recognition to LGBTQ members of the community and movement towards equality, visibility, and acceptance for all, thus ending discrimination and oppression.
Thanks for having us. I just wanted to share, Cassie has started an online community for all members of the LGBTQ+ community. Her and several friends have started such a community. It's about, 1,300 strong. Wow. So we're all doing great things. And Sean here is actually one of 50 people nationwide named a champion of pride. So we have a lot of great things going on, and we just appreciate you all recognizing this month and this proclamation. Oh. Sean also wrote the proclamation.
Oh, good. Well done. Congratulations. Here. Were you going to take a picture? Or? Right in front.
Right in the middle.
Thanks for coming out. Yeah. See you Saturday.
Hey, Mayor, do you mind? I just want to say one thing real quick. You know, I'm just thinking about your message, Cassie, what you said, and right now there's another meeting going on at the school district where, as a teacher in the school district, you know, we have a climate survey every year, and this year 20% of our non-gender binary students said they don't feel safe, they don't feel included, they don't feel welcomed at our schools. The district tried to address that by infusing some more inclusive curriculum. It's just been met with massive resistance, which, you know, as an educator, I find just shameful that my students feel that unsafe in our schools. And that's why I just appreciate what you said. You know, it's a great history. It's been a struggling history, and I'm glad we're able to do this, but the fight does continue. So I appreciate all your activism. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. You also don't have to leave if you don't want to. I say it to everyone. Okay. I have a second proclamation this evening for Pollinator Week. City of Coralville proclamation. Whereas the monarch butterfly is an iconic North American species with whose multi-generational migrative and metamorphosis from caterpillar to butterfly has captured the imagination of millions of Americans. And whereas the honeybee is an essential part of crop production in America and in producing a food source itself. And whereas we understand that our Iowa cities and counties have a critical role to play in to help save these pollinator populations. And whereas we recognize the essential value and importance of Iowa native plants to our landscape and environment. And whereas we understand the importance of a native landscape has on the preservation of pollinators, and whereas the City of Coralville actively participates in creating and preserving pollinator habitat through our prairie restoration program and native milkweed seed distribution. And furthermore, let it be known that the City of Coralville encourages all residents to plant and protect native milkweed so that monarch butterflies have the resources to produce successive generations and sustain their spectacular migration through the state of Iowa, and encourages all residents to plant and protect all other flowering nectar sources so that the honeybee will have the resources necessary to continue local honey production. Now therefore, I, John A. Lundell, a mayor of the city of Coralville, Iowa, do hereby proclaim the week of June 17th to the 23rd, 2018 to be Pollinator Week throughout the city of Coralville, and urge all citizens to recognize this observance by planting and preserving native plants. Signed this 12th day of June by the mayor. We have Sherry Proud, our Director of Parks and Rec, to receive this proclamation. No, Sherry. Thank you.
I have to send a picture in, so.
Do it. I'll do it.
You get it? Okay. Thank you. So about a year and a half ago, Mayor Lundell sent some information to me about the Mayor's Monarch Pledge, and I hadn't heard of it, but it seemed like something that the City of Coralville should be involved in. So we signed up, and what that means is, among things like doing proclamations like we did this evening, we've documented how we are making strides in both preserving and planting milkweed, as well as preserving native plants and planting more. So right now we do about 5 to 10 acres of new prairie per year, as well as go back in and seed into our existing prairies. And we're putting milkweed seed in all of those mixes now, insisting that the DOT does that as well, and make sure we have a lot of flowering plants for our pollinators, which will only help both our monarchs and our bee population. Our streetscapes, now you see more native plants both in our stormwater planters, as well as out along the Coral Ridge Avenue area. Those have large areas of long grass prairie that will support the pollinators as well. And we encourage everyone in Coralville to consider more native plants in their landscapes at home, and to leave that milkweed standing instead of pulling it out of your flower beds. We have a lot of fun. We harvest our milkweed pods, break those up, save them over the winter, and then when we do our junior high work days each spring, one of the most favorite activities is they get to mix them with mud and seeds and then throw those out into our prairie areas. So those are some of the things that we're doing for our Mayor's Monarch Pledge.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Okay, it's item 7 now, citizen comments. This is the time on the agenda for anyone in the audience that would like to address us this evening on something that's not on the agenda.
Okay. Hi, I'm Chris Warford Henry. I'm from the Coralville Food Pantry, Coralville Community Food Pantry, and I see some supporters out there, but I know you all are supporters. Actually, we want to say thank you for the support we get of having the facility, the former post office building. We really appreciate that location and building. It's been wonderful. And also the increase in, your recent increase in support that I think starts in July again for us. Thank you again for that as well. And I want to tell you a little bit about what we've done during the month of May. We've seen 395 families for a total of 873 family visits. That's a total of 1,413 individuals who are served. And the total pounds is 30,057 pounds of food that went out during the month of May to people who have food insecurity. So that's just Coralville people. So thank you for that. I'd also like to introduce, we have a few new members to the board, and this is Mohammed Khalil. He is working on his PhD at St. Ambrose right now, but I just wanted to let you know he's one of our new board members. I think a few will be coming in future months. I was talking with him and asked him, he'd been out on the East Coast, and I said, how did you find Coralville? And I'm going to have him tell you how that happened.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm very happy to talk with you here with these great people. My name is Mohammed Khalil. I moved to the United States in 2013. Before I moved to Iowa, I had been living in Virginia and New York for 2 months. I made many calls at that time to many of my friends in different states. Most of them, I asked them which is the best state to live and to start my new life with my family. Most of them, they advised me to move to Iowa, where is a nice people, best people, good education, and safety, and also freedom. And this is exactly what I found. I am one of the Sudanese American community leader, and I am very proud to help and to serve Coralville community in anyone that I can help that. I have a famous quote I did here in Iowa after I moved here. When I talk about Iowa winters, I said Iowa winters are a small price to pay for nice people, best people, good education, safety, and freedom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed.
Yeah, good.
And thank you, Chris, for the update. We appreciate hearing that. So, are there any other comments from the audience? Okay, moving on. Also, a very prestigious event is the appointment of our new fire chief. I would entertain a motion to approve the city administrator's appointment for the fire chief. This is for the position recently left open when longtime fire chief Dave Stannard retired. And the city administrator's recommendation is that Ori Schweitzer be promoted to assume the role of our fire chief.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Gross, seconded by Dodds.
Good.
Oh, I'm sorry, Goodrich, I'm sorry. Discussion.
Who?
Never heard of the guy, huh?
Great, congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Great choice.
Congratulations.
Yeah, very good choice. So,
Good choice.
okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Resounding aye. Congratulations. Would you like to say anything, Ori?
else you want to do?
Well, I just want to thank you, Mayor and the council, and thank Administrator Hayworth for recommending me, in my biased opinion, to lead the best volunteer fire service in the state of Iowa. I look forward to working with you folks to make it stay that way. Thank you.
Very good. Anything you wanted to add, Kelly?
No, I would just say that we had 3 great candidates, all from our fire department, that applied for this position. And I think one of the things that stands out about Ori is that he actually started in the department as a volunteer. He was living in our community and wanted to give back to the community, and so he started as a volunteer. So he understands how important the system is, and he also understands what being a volunteer for the community as a firefighter is like. And so I think that really makes Ori stand out, and he'll be a great asset for all of us.
Ori, how many years have you been in our service of some sort?
23.
23 years. Thank you.
Very good. Okay. Moving on to item 9. Kind of the more routine items now. Disposal of property. Item A is a public hearing on the intent to dispose of interest in real property and enter a development agreement for the redevelopment of 411, 413, and 415 10th Avenue. This is for the sale of that property. I'll open the public hearing. Are there any comments? Any written?
No written.
I'll close the public hearing and entertain the resolution.
Resolution approving the disposal of real property on 808 on 5th LC for those properties generally referred to as 411, 413, and 415 10th Avenue, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Foster, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Gill. Discussion? Roll call.
Gross.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Resolution is approved, all ayes. Item 10 is 1710 Commercial Park. This is a second reading of the ordinance that rezones a property at that address to PUD 1 in order to build future buildings and structures on that site. It's the site of the IDT business in Coralville.
Ordinance number 2018-1010, an ordinance amending the Coralville zoning ordinance, the same being ordinance number 664 as previously amended, rezoning certain property located within the corporate limits of the city of Coralville, Johnson County, Iowa, and generally known as 1710 Commercial Park, IDNA subdivision part 3 from I-2 light industry district and C2 arterial commercial district to PIPUD 1 industrial plan unit development 1 district. It's introduced for adoption, second consideration by Councilmember Gross, seconded by.
Second.
Give it to Dodds. It's a tie. Discussion? Roll call.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
The ordinance passes its second consideration, all ayes. Item 11 is the Iowa River Landing Reinvestment District. This is also second consideration of an ordinance that's required to allow the city to begin collecting sales tax revenue in the Iowa River Landing District that will go towards supporting our arena project.
Ordinance number 2018-1009, an ordinance establishing the Iowa River Landing Reinvestment District pursuant to Chapter 15J of the Code of Iowa, introduced for adoption, second consideration by Councilmember Gill, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Goodrich?
Yes.
Yep. Discussion?
I just have one quick question. The map that's attached on that, if we ever want to change the map, are we able to do that? Do we have to go through?
No, that was part of our application
That's
process
it.
by the state. So that's was set when we originally applied.
Okay.
Roll call?
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich. Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Ordinance passes its second consideration, all ayes. Item 12 is the Coral Ridge Avenue Wall 4 repair project. City Engineer Dan Holderness is going to give us a quotation report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wall 4 in the Coral Ridge Avenue Phase 1 project, which is between Holiday Road and Oakdale Boulevard, is leaning significantly away from the street. After an engineering analysis was done of that situation, it was determined that the original sheet pile was not installed according to the approved plans and specifications. A project agreement has been approved between Howard R. Green Company and the city for the repair of this wall. Howard R. Green will pay all the costs for the repair of that wall, but they're asking the city to contract for that work because that's not something they typically do in their business. So plans and specs were created and dated April 18th of 2018 and were sent out for quotations. Quotations were received on May 22nd, and only one quotation was received, which was more than double the engineer's estimate for this cost of this project. So we're asking that that quote be rejected, and that new plans and specs will be created, and we have proposing a new quote date on July 10th, 2018, to be received in the afternoon and then reported back to the council that evening during your regular council meeting.
Okay, thank you, Dan. The resolution taking that action, please.
Resolution rejecting quotations and asking for new quotations due July 10th, 2018 for the Coral Ridge Avenue Wall 4 repair project, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Dodds, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Foster. Discussion? Roll call.
Goodrich. Aye. Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Resolution passes all ayes. Item C is for the same project. It's for additional construction observations for the installation of the corrective measures to the wall.
Resolution approving amendment number 4 to that certain professional services agreement with H.R. Green Inc. for Coral Ridge Avenue improvements, Holiday Road to Oakdale Boulevard, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Goodrich, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Gross. Discussion? Roll call.
Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich. Aye.
Resolution passes all ayes. Item 13 is Sidewalk Project 2017, Zone 3. Item A is a motion to approve the pay estimate final to JDM Concrete LLC for this project.
So moved.
Moved by Gill, seconded by
Second.
Goodrich. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Item B is a resolution accepting this project as completed.
Resolution accepting the Sidewalk Project 2017 Zone 3 as completed, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Foster, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Dodds. Discussion? Roll call.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich. Aye. Foster.
Aye.
Resolution passes all ayes. Item 14 is stormwater rates and fees. This is for the stormwater program, erosion and sediment control, post-construction and escrow inspection fees, and setting that schedule.
Resolution adopting the stormwater program permit and inspection fee schedule of fees to be collected pursuant to Chapter 159 of the Code of Ordinances 2011 of the City of Coralville. Introduced for adoption, Councilmember Gross, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Goodrich. Discussion? Roll call.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich. Aye. Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Resolution passes all ayes. Item 15 is the Paratransit 28E agreement. This is the renewal of our agreement for Johnson County seats to provide paratransit service from July 1st of 18 through June 20th of 2023.
30th.
June 30th, I'm sorry, 2023. Thank you.
Resolution approving an amended 28E agreement for paratransit services between the City of Coralville and Johnson County, Iowa for the period of July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2023. Introduced for adoption by Councilmember Gill, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Gross. Discussion? Looks like we have our Parking and Transit Director, Vicki Robrock, to speak to us.
Yes, Mayor. As the agreement says, that this would just be basically an extension, another 5-year extension on our current agreement. There were three very slight changes. Currently, the city or the county does a participation, and we would always do that based on the previous year's escalation in cost. And now we're going to do that over a 3-year average in hopes that when we have fuel spikes and everything, that will take into account that. They've also asked for a spare vehicle. Currently, we operate 3 ADA paratransit vehicles during peak, and so that leaves us with no spares, which we've been utilizing the county's vehicles. So they've asked us when we have the opportunity to hold on to our vehicles and we can maintain them in a way that isn't cost prohibitive, that we would keep a vehicle so that we do have a spare, so that when we're doing maintenance and everything, we would have a vehicle to supply to them. And then I think the other main thing was that they would like us to consider, as we replace vehicles, efficient and green type vehicles, and they would possibly even be willing to participate in the cost of that. So those were the more significant changes of the new agreement.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Vicki? Roll call.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
The resolution is approved, all ayes. Item 16 is the administrative pay scale. This is a resolution approving an increase of 2.5% on July 1st, 2018 for employees not covered by a union contract, and is equivalent to the increase approved in those recent union contracts.
Resolution approving an increase in the administrative pay scale effective July 1st, 2018, excluding, oh no, there was no exclusion. Introduced for adoption by Councilmember Dodd, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Gill. Discussion? Roll call.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Resolution passes, all ayes.
You know, the years go by. I'd just like to thank Mike Funky and all his hard work that he does. You know, we rarely have any questions on the contracts, and and a lot of it is Mike Funky that does it. And thank you, Mike.
Well put. Item 17 is a 2018 build grant application. This is for a federal build 2018 grant for the reconstruction of interchange 242 on I-80, and includes a benefit to cost analysis for the project not to exceed $29,975.
Resolution approving a proposal with HDR Engineering Inc. for a benefit cost analysis for the 2018 build grant application, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Goodrich, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Foster. Discussion?
Yeah, this is the replacement program for, what was the? Tiger was the previous. They do have a significant amount of money in the grant program, so we thought it would be good at this time, since there is so much money, that we make a serious effort to try to get the funding for the First Avenue interchange with I-80. The Assistant City Administrator, Ellen Hobble, will be writing this. One of the things in our discussion that we found out with the DOT and others, that the cost-benefit analysis is really an important part of this process, and that if we really wanted to have a good application, that's something we can use, and we can always use that data for future purposes as well. So we have had discussions with IDOT staff about this as well, and they are supporting.
Great.
Good. Let's see, roll call.
Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Resolution passes, all ayes. Item 18 is Rotary Camp Park Shelter. This is for building of a shelter and fireplace in the Rotary Camp Park by the Take a Kid Outdoors Club, and gifting it to the city of Coralville in exchange for the city maintaining them for 20 years. Don?
First.
Read the resolution first.
Resolution approving an agreement between Take a Kid Outdoors Club and the City of Coralville, granting temporary construction access to Rotary Camp Park in order to build a shelter and fireplace, and gifting it to the city, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Foster, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Gill. We have our Parks and Rec Director, Sherry Proud, to say a few words.
Take a Kid Outdoors and the North Rotary Club, I think I said that correctly, have been working together to raise funds for this shelter. I think it's been about 15 months or so ago that I talked in work session and shown some different ideas for the shelter. We actually have settled on with them the same shelter that we just put in Northridge Park. So if you've seen that shelter, or remember the picture from during the wintertime, that's the same shelter that we're going to use. They also would like to put a fireplace on and have a Wellmark grant to put that fireplace on so that they can start to do programming year round and have better access to, they like everything's outdoors, of course, but it'd be nice to have a fireplace there in the wintertime. This is granting them temporary access, then it will be gifted back to the city. We'll take council action for that gift, and then we will maintain that.
Sounds good. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich. Aye. Foster.
Aye.
Resolution passes all ayes. Item 19 is procurement policy changes. This is just an update of our procurement policy to make sure it's in line with the regulations of the Federal Transit Administration.
Resolution approving transit updates to the city's procurement policy, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Gross, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Goodrich. I'm not going to put Vicky on the spot to have her explain these. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich. Aye. Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye. Resolution passes all ayes. Now I'd consider a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented or amended.
Move to approve the consent calendar, items A through I inclusive.
Moved by Gill, seconded by
Second.
Foster. Discussion? Roll call.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich. Aye. Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Consent calendar is approved, all ayes. Item 21 is the city engineer reconstruction report by Dan Holderness again.
Thank you, Mayor. Progress continues to be made on both our major arterial street projects in the city. It's been slowed a little bit by the rain, but they're still moving forward. On First Avenue, at the beginning of last week, they moved traffic to the east side, temporary paving, head-to-head traffic, single lane. And so now the contractor is working on the west side of the right-of-way, installing utilities, water, sewer, storm sewer from the south to the north. They're also working on paving the First Avenue 6th Street intersection, and the goal is by the end of July to have that intersection paved back, all the railroad signals and equipment put in, and that intersection back open to normal traffic again by the end of July. The overall project completion date is November of this year for all the hard improvements. Out on Coleridge Avenue, we're still on the big detour around. That seems to be working fairly well now. They are working on paving also at the Oakdale Boulevard Coleridge Avenue, intersection. And so the goal is by the 4th of July to have that intersection done, all the paving, all the turn lanes done, so it's be back to its final configuration, which will help facilitate traffic in that area as well. They started working on the big culvert this week for the bike underpass under the street right north of Oakdale. And that has been excavated now, and they're starting to put in the footings, and the box culvert sections are supposed to show up later this week, and so we'll have that in place shortly. And they're also working on utilities out there as well. So things are moving forward quickly and well on both projects.
Very good.
Also, I could mention the Clear Creek Trail project, phase 6 and 7. The easterly bridge has been constructed for that project, and the goal is to turn the east portion of that project over to the grading contractor and paving contractor, and the goal there is to have the trail constructed from the end of the existing Clear Creek Trail out to Creekside Ballpark somewhere hopefully around the end of July. And so after that, then they'll start constructing on the north section, which will go from Creekside Ballpark up to make the connection with Tiffin.
Great. Anything you want to say about the overlay project on Highway 6 or the shoulder work out by Lowe's?
Those are both DOT projects. The DOT is installing overwidth shoulders on Highway 6 from Lowe's on west through to Tiffin. And that project is a night project and is ongoing at this point in time. Also, the DOT is doing a mill and fill project on Highway 6 from Clear Creek Bridge in Coralville east to Hawkins Drive, essentially our east boundary limits. And those, again, they're working at night on those projects as well. And one of the major probably impacts of that project is they are required to rebuild the intersection curb ramps and the landings at First Avenue and Highway 6 to meet the new ADA standards since those were built. And so those are being torn out and reconstructed in a proper fashion as well. So that's taking a little time. And so it's having a little bit of an impact on the pedestrian flow of traffic through that area.
That's a good project. I mean, they're moving along pretty quickly. You know,
Yes.
and you go in the morning and it's different. You know, it's nice.
Yeah, yeah. They so, again, an overnight project they work, and took them a little while to get here, but once they got here, they're moving very quickly as well. So.
And speaking of the pedestrian accommodations, I'm impressed along the new section of First Avenue, how you've accommodated a design there for bicycle and pedestrians along there.
Yes, that was a very critical element of that corridor because there is not a continuous sidewalk on the east side of the street where you could easily detour pedestrians and bicyclists. We went to a lot of effort and in the plans and also the contractor to maintain a safe corridor along the edge of the construction zone, and we've also gone as far as painting the lines across the driveways so that the vehicles know that this is a pedestrian way and to be careful during those.
It's being used.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's being used a lot, and so we're thankful that people have a safe way to transverse through the project while it's under construction.
Any other comments for Dan? Questions? Thank you, Dan. Item 22 is City Administrator Report.
Yeah, the big thing this week is we're looking back and celebrating the floods of 2008. And I say celebrating because there's a lot of things to be thankful for. There were people that had significant damages back 10 years ago, and I think most of those people are in better shape today than they were 10 years ago, and our infrastructure obviously is much better shape. And so last Friday, we had a chance to show the city employees as part of a lunch and learn all of the improvements around the community that have been made for flood protection. Yesterday, we had the opportunity with citizens to show them around the community, and we had great questions and great interest from people on how it was done and what would be done in the future. And so that was really good. And then this Friday, we will be thanking all of those consultants and staff and other agencies, outside agencies that were involved with the floods and helping us recover. So, the fact that here 10 years ago or 10 years later that we're able to say that we've completed our last project is, I think, amazing, considering 10 years ago when we got our report, we didn't know where the heck the money was going to come from and how we could do it. So I think that's a good thing to remember.
You and the staff should be congratulated. That's how many projects do you think in Iowa are actually completed? I think Coralville is about the only one.
I don't know. There's a lot of things that have been happening, but unfortunately our friends up to the north on 380, Waterloo and Cedar Falls, they're facing this week,
but again,
threats again.
It's the staff and our staff was vigilant and we got after it, and I think part of that is the reason it got done is because we were Johnny on the spot with FEMA and other people, and everybody should be congratulated, the staff of the city. They worked very hard to do this. Many cities don't do that. They're sitting there, 10 years into it, and they have one project done, or they're filling in spaces. And again, congratulations on a good job.
Well, I think that, obviously the council and mayor played important parts of that as well, because you made the decisions that we were going to come back better than we were at that time. And I think that was an important decision. And I think you can look around the community and see all kinds of locations where things are better today. And there were some important decisions that had to be made that helped with that. And for example, in the Old Town area, that area wouldn't have been redeveloped if it wasn't for the council deciding to spend their own funds at that time to make all that happen.
Yeah.
So
what comes to mind, we bonded for that.
Yep.
And we had all the buildings down by winter.
Yep.
And that was a hard project, but we got it done. Again, you should be congratulated.
Anything else, Kelly?
No.
Okay. Mayor's report. I don't have much to say. I'll just say that this past Sunday was the annual Iowa Firefighters Memorial celebration, where they invited family of deceased firefighters whose name have been put on the wall there since the event last year. And it got a little damp this year, but it came off quite well. And it's very touching and moving and important ceremony for those families. And it's also a great economic engine for the community. They fill a lot of hotel rooms for this because they come from across the state. And they obviously have to stay usually Saturday night to be there in time for Sunday morning's service. So we're proud to host that firefighter memorial and look forward to working on it again next year. City Attorney report.
I would say that I was particularly impressed with your Pollinator proclamation to the extent that I'm going to ask my wife Shirley not to mow the backyard anymore in hopes that the milkweeds take advantage of the situation. And I don't mean to cast humor on that project. That is a good idea. Nothing else. Thank you.
Okay.
Somebody, the police are going to come and file a nuisance complaint on you.
It's been done.
Committee and council members report. Lori, we'll start with you.
I don't have anything, thanks.
Okay.
Good meeting.
Jill?
Yeah, it was a fun meeting tonight. Congratulations to our new chief, Schweitzer, and I just wanted to recognize and congratulate the Coralville Community Food Pantry and the Coralville Public Library for working together to put on a really nice community meal.
That was great. Well put. Thanks. Tom?
The only thing I have is congratulations, Lori. You're a prize. You really are. I mean, it's not often that we have three candidates that are competing and they're all homegrown. So, but you work hard. You work very hard. And thank you.
Mitch?
Yeah, kind of three things, and they've been said, but I'm just reiterating. And secondly, congratulations, Chief, now. And yeah, I think, especially in this community, getting people that know and understand it's so vital, and looking forward to your service. Congrats. And what Jill said too, I had, as I was working at the community member dinner, I had at least 3 or 4 people say besides Fourth Fest, this is their favorite event in Coralville. They're just looking forward to them all the time now, which I thought was a great compliment. And then I just wanted to I was just thinking about the flood stuff myself. Just want to make some comments because I was actually thinking about you just getting elected, Megan, because I had just gotten elected in obviously 2007 and had these great plans and everything I was going to do. And that day in May, we all went to the University of Iowa to hear the Stories Project getting unveiled. And then I was the lunch keynote speaker for the Young Professional Luncheon at the Marriott. And as I went to go speak, I just saw this water. And there was literally people were thinking, gosh, do we evacuate or do we proceed? And they decided to cancel the meeting. And I still have my speech. I didn't get to give it, but
you're not a young professional.
Exactly, and that's when I was young too. Yeah, but it was crazy. I was just thinking, just getting elected and having all these things you want to do, and then things happen that you have no control over, and you've got to kind of adjust on that. But I just want to make a couple announcements or not announcements, but observations, because I had one of the cool opportunities. We had a long planned trip to take my mother-in-law for her 55th birthday to Ireland. So the next day, I got to fly out of Cedar Rapids and got to fly over everything. And Sam Champion, the Good Morning America weatherman, was sitting next to me on the flight, actually. And said in all of his years, it was one of the worst natural disasters he'd ever seen. And he put it right under Katrina. He said, there's Katrina, and then I would have to say this, which I just thought was so telling. And then just to go by what Tom said, and I say this all the time, that I have never seen a group of people work more hard than the city staff when that happened. I mean, it was so inspiring. Again, being in Ireland, I would get emails. No, I just didn't get them, but we, as council, got them from Ellen at all hours of the day. I mean, just crazy. And I was just so moved by how hard people worked. And I think, as you were just saying, Kelly, as you look at some of our neighbors in other parts of the state and in this county, where they are and where we are, it's just such a testament to, I think, the staff. And I also got to give Governor Culver and Lieutenant Governor Judge a huge shout out, because their vision and their planning was huge. I mean, iJobs and all that. I mean, we took so advantage of that and really came out of the better. And I just also want to give a shout out to Henry and John, colleagues that were here too, because it really was, everyone just came together so well. It was one of the best moments I've ever had in any regard.
John Y.
John Y. Yeah.
Said Cobble.
Did I say? Who?
John Cobble. I believe he did.
He said.
No, Henry and John.
Okay.
Yeah, Henry Hogan John. Yeah. But I just really proud that we were able to do what we did as an entire city, and just to rebuild and to move forward. It's just really heartwarming. That's all I want to say.
Well put. Megan.
Well, I just have piggybacking off what others have said about the community meal. We actually, our attendance increased year over year. We ended up serving over 500 people at this year's community meal. Last year, we served 450 roughly. So again, another fantastic event in the community. With regard to the flood improvements and the anniversary of the flood, I was really excited that I had the opportunity to go on the flood improvement tour yesterday. And just really wanted to compliment, echo what Mitch said and what Tom said, what everybody's been saying about how fantastic our city staff is. I was sitting next to a woman on the bus, and she leaned over and said to me, I had no idea what all the planning and everything, all the thought that had gone into these improvements, and they are absolutely seamless. And it's kind of a double-edged sword, because I think it's fantastic that it's so well planned that you don't even notice it, but you also don't notice it if you don't know, and that just speaks to how well that it is done. So I did want to really thank all of our staff who has worked so hard over the last 10 years to put those improvements in place. And I remember the event, as a young mom with 4 children under the age of 7, whose, I lived on Fifth Avenue Place, and wondering how far the water was going to come, and we had a foot of water in our basement, and wondering if, we were going to need to evacuate. And even in that difficult time, I felt grateful that I lived in this community, because I knew that we were well taken care of. So again, fantastic work, everybody. I also wanted to give a shout out to everybody who attended the discussion on May 24th about the Southeast Commercial District, the planning meeting. We had a great community discussion. The students from Kansas State University did a fantastic job of facilitating that discussion. We had an amazing turnout. It was just great to see everybody come out and participate for that. And then I just wanted to remind everybody that the Iowa City Pride Parade is at noon. It starts at noon on Saturday. This is one of our family's favorite events of the summer. We have such a good time, and it's a really, really fun event. And of course, Ori, welcome. I had so many people come up to me and say it's awesome that Ori is the new chief. I just heard so many wonderful things, and it is great to have a familiar face in that role. So congratulations. That's all I have. Thank you.
Megan. Well put. And entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Gill, seconded by Dodds. She said it. Sure. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.